The house was quiet the way old houses get quiet, not empty, just settled, holding its breath. Noah had come downstairs for water. That was all. Bare feet on the cold kitchen tile, the tap running low so the pipes wouldn't knock. The digital clock on the microwave reading 1:47 in green. The study door was not fully closed. She wasn't trying to listen. She was standing 8 feet away filling a glass, and the voices came through the gap the way voices do when they don't know anyone is there, unguarded, unmanaged, exactly themselves. Her fiancé's voice first. She's fine. She's good company. She's not difficult. And then his father's. But, do you love her? Elias, do you actually love her? A pause that lasted long enough that Noah set the glass very carefully on the counter. She's useful, Elias said. She's appropriate. She fits what the family needs right now. Another pause. But love her? Dad, she means nothing to me. She's a placeholder until something better comes along. The kitchen had no temperature after that. Noah was standing in a room that had just become a different room, holding a glass she didn't remember picking back up. She did not make a sound. She went back upstairs. She sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. She breathed. And then, because she was the kind of woman who did not come undone in the dark, she began to think. If you have ever been in a room where someone told the truth about you without knowing you were there, stay with me. Because what Noah Reyes did in the 72 hours after that kitchen is the kind of thing that gets talked about for years. Like the video right now, and I will tell you everything. Noah was 31 years old, and she had been engaged to Elias Vane for 11 months, which was long enough to have moved her life significantly in his direction, and not long enough to have merged it so completely that extraction was impossible. She had moved into the Vane family's guest house on the estate 18 months ago, which had seemed practical at the time. Elias's work kept him traveling, and the arrangement meant they could build something together without the friction of long distance. His family had been warm. His mother had called her a breath of fresh air. His father had shaken her hand at the first dinner and said he hoped she'd stay. She had believed all of it. She was not a naive person. That was the thing she would sit with longest in the hours that followed, not the betrayal itself, but the precision with which it had been constructed. She had 5 years of professional experience, identifying patterns in data that were designed to mislead. And she had been misled. She had been misled because the misleading had been done with patience and skill and a particular intimate knowledge of what she was looking for, which meant someone had studied her long enough to know exactly which signals would keep her from looking further. She had believed it because Elias had been attentive and considered in all the visible ways, remembering her sister's birthday, asking after her projects, appearing at exactly the right moments, with exactly the right gestures. She had thought, this is what it looks like when someone chooses you well. She had not thought to ask who else they were choosing, or why, or what the choosing was for. What she had not known was that the Vane family had a security system, not an unusual one. Cameras at the gates, the perimeter, the front entrance. Standard for a property of that size. What Noah had not thought about was the camera in the main hallway that covered the study entrance, installed after a burglary attempt 3 years prior. She had walked past it hundreds of times without giving it meaning. It had always just been part of the wall. It had a 72-hour rolling archive. She knew this because Elias had mentioned it once, offhandedly, in the context of a misplaced delivery package. She had filed it the way you file information that seems unimportant at the time. It was important now. She did not go back to sleep. At 2:30, she opened her laptop. At 3:15, she had reviewed the archived footage and confirmed that the hallway camera had captured the study door at the precise angle that included the gap. You could not hear the audio on the hallway feed, but you could see Elias and his father clearly through the gap for the 7 minutes they were in that room. And you could see, in the timestamp on the footage, the exact correspondence between what was visible on the screen and what she had heard with her own ears while standing at the kitchen sink. She wasn't building a case. That was not what this was. She was not interested in exposure or vengeance or the public performance of being wronged. She was interested in evidence. She had spent 5 years working in data compliance, and she understood, with the particular clarity of someone who had spent 5 years determining what was real and what was constructed, the difference between something that happened and something that could be demonstrated to have happened. She made a copy of the relevant archive. She put it somewhere safe. She did not mention it to Elias. Then she spent 24 hours watching. She watched because she was good at watching, and because she wanted to understand the full architecture of what she was inside before she decided how to leave it. She had learned long ago, in 5 years of data compliance, in hundreds of client files that told a different story on the surface than they told underneath, that the first information is rarely the complete information. The thing you hear is the thing that shapes what you look for next. She was going to look carefully. There was Elias at breakfast, easy and warm, and completely unaware that anything had shifted. She watched the ease. She understood it now as she had not understood it the day before. Not warmth, but a practiced ambient management of her, running constantly below the level where she might notice it, like a temperature kept just comfortable enough that you never think to check the thermostat. The way he looked at her with an expression she had spent 11 months reading as love she now read as maintenance, regular, routine, professional. She watched that expression and she felt nothing that was not clear and cold and certain. She also found the other thing. She had not been looking for it. She had been reviewing documents on the shared household account, receipts, invoices, the administrative fabric of the estate, looking for anything that would inform the full picture of what she was extricating herself from. And there it was. A transfer. Then another. Then 6 more across 14 months, not enormous amounts individually. Together, across a period that corresponded almost exactly with her time at the estate, they added to a sum significant enough that she sat back in her chair and did not move for a long time. Her name was not on those transfers. Her accounts had not been touched, but the transfers were from a subsidiary account of the Vane Family Trust to a personal account she did not recognize, and the timing and pattern of them had the specific shape of money that is being moved because someone knows something is about to change. She called her former compliance supervisor on a private line. She described the pattern without using names. He listened for 90 seconds and said, "That's pre-positioning. Someone's moving assets ahead of an event. Do you know what the event is?" She looked at her engagement ring. "I'm starting to," she said. She spent the remaining hours before Elias came back from his overnight trip building a document. Not emotional, not persuasive. Evidentiary, dates, amounts, patterns, the camera archive, the transcript she had written from memory at Thram, verified word by word against the footage timestamp. When she was finished, it was 41 pages, and it was the most precisely constructed document she had ever produced, and she had produced some very precise documents in her career. She sent a copy to her lawyer before Elias landed. He walked in at 4 in the afternoon carrying flowers, which she thought was either a coincidence or a particular kind of cruelty, and he kissed her on the cheek and said he had missed her, and she smiled in the way she had been smiling for the last 24 hours, present, warm, entirely unreadable, and she said she had missed him too. She had not missed him. She was not capable of missing someone she had never actually had. She had dinner with his mother that evening. His mother was a woman named Helena, who had been genuinely kind to Noah in the way that some people are genuinely kind without understanding the systems their kindness is embedded in, and Noah thought about her during dinner with a complicated feeling that was not anger and not warmth, but something that contained both. After dessert, while Elias was in the kitchen, Helena looked at her across the table and said, in the quiet voice of someone saying something they have been considering for a while, "I want you to know that whatever happens, I think you are extraordinary. I've thought that from the beginning." Noah looked at her. "Thank you, Helena. I also want you to know." Helena paused, her hands folded on the table. "My husband told me what was said in the study 2 nights ago." The silence between them was several things at once. "He came to me the next morning," Helena continued, her voice careful and even. "He was not comfortable with it. He is not a man who is often uncomfortable, but he was. He said he thought you deserved to know, and that he was not willing to be complicit." She paused again. "I don't know if you heard. I suspect you did." Noah said nothing. "If you did," Helena said, "I want you to know that what Elias said does not represent what you are. It represents what he is. And I have been trying to work out the courage to say that to him directly for the better part of 2 days." Noah reached across the table and covered Helena's hands with her own. "You should say it," she said. "You should say it to him, not for me, for yourself." She went upstairs. She sat at the desk. She opened the document. Elias found her there an hour later. He had the look of someone who has just had a conversation that has reorganized his evening. His mother had said it. Whatever she had built up the courage to say in those 2 days, she had said it. And it had reached him in the way that mothers can reach people that no one else can. His face was carrying the aftermath. The management had slipped. The expression she had been watching all day, that ambient, professional warmth, was absent. And what was underneath it was younger and less certain, and she thought, considerably more real. It was the most honest she had ever seen him look. She turned her chair to face him. She did not stand. She had learned a long time ago that the person who remains seated in a charged room holds more authority than the person who fills space with their body, and she had no intention of giving up the authority she currently held. He looked at her for a moment. Something in her stillness seemed to reach him before anything she said. "Noah, sit down," she said. Quietly, not unkindly. He sat. She turned the laptop screen toward him, not the camera footage. The financial document. 41 pages, clean and precise, with the pattern of transfers laid out in the particular way she had learned to lay things out when she needed them to be undeniable. She watched him look at it. She watched his face move through 3 stages: recognition, then calculation, then something that was perhaps the first genuine thing she had seen from him since 1:47 a.m. in the kitchen. "How long have you known?" he said. "Long enough," she said. "The study," he started. "The camera has a 72-hour archive," she said. "You mentioned it once. A delivery package." The room was quiet. "What do you want?" he said. His voice had lost its management quality. It was just a voice now, tired and uncertain, which was, she thought, the most honest he had ever sounded. "I want what I've already ensured I have," she said. "My lawyer has the document. A separate copy exists off-site. The prenuptial terms include a clause about material misrepresentation, which your father's estate attorney drafted, and which applies here in ways I imagine your counsel will confirm." She paused. I want my name off this property by Friday and the guest house lease terminated. I want the asset transfer pattern reviewed by an independent auditor as a condition of my silence about the compliance questions it raises. And I want you to understand that I am not angry." He looked at her. "I'm not angry," she said again. "I'm clear. There is a difference. Anger is about you. Clarity is about me. I have what I need." She stood. She picked up the laptop. "I was never a placeholder," she said. "You were." She walked out of the room and down the stairs and into the kitchen, where she stood at the sink and ran the tap and filled a glass of water and drank all of it in the silence of a house that was finally telling the truth. Helena drove her to the hotel. She didn't ask. She simply appeared at the front door at 9 o'clock with her keys and said, "I thought you might want company for the first part." They drove without much conversation. The city passed outside the windows, ordinary and indifferent, doing what cities do at 9 in the evening. The lit windows and the people who did not know and would not know, and whose lives moved entirely outside the frame of what had just happened. Noah found that clarifying. The world was not changed. She was not destroyed. She was a woman in a car going to a hotel, and tomorrow she would meet with her lawyer, and the day after she would begin building the next thing. Near the hotel, Helena said, "Will you be all right?" Noah thought about the question with the seriousness it deserved. She thought about 41 pages, about the 3M transcript verified word by word against the timestamp, about the prenuptial clause drafted by the Vane family's own attorney that now served a purpose nobody on that side of the table had intended. "I was always going to be all right," she said. "I just needed to know what I was dealing with." 2 years later, Noah sat at the head of a conference table at a data governance consultancy she had founded 8 months after leaving the estate. 12 people. A client list that had grown faster than she had projected and included 3 publicly listed companies and 2 government bodies, and a reputation in the compliance sector that had been built entirely on the quality of the work itself. No connections leveraged. No family name. No one whose patience she needed to manage or whose approval she needed to maintain. Just the work, done well, in a room that was hers. She was explaining a financial pattern anomaly in a client's data to 8 people who were paying significant money for the clarity she was about to give them. And she was doing it with the calm, precise authority of someone who had been doing this exact work, seeing what others missed, naming what others avoided, building the document that made the situation undeniable for longer than she had been given credit for, in rooms that had not yet understood what they had. After the meeting, her business partner said, "You were extraordinary in there. That's the clearest I've seen someone explain a pattern like that." She smiled. The real one, wide and unhurried and entirely her own. "I know," she said. She had always known. She had just needed a quiet house and a kitchen at 1:47 a.m. and a door that was not quite closed to remind her that knowing and performing were different things, and that she had spent long enough performing. The work was hers. The clarity was hers. The table at the head of the room was hers. She had never been a placeholder. Not once. Not for a single day. If this one found you somewhere that needed it today, share it with someone who deserves to hear it. Hit subscribe. I will see you in the next one.